I got a call last night that the R18 is here, and if I could come to the showroom and see it in flesh first thing in the morning before anyone else. Very frankly, I'm not a cruiser guy, and I say that it's a cruiser, let me pass it. And I wasn't really about to come here, but I just started browsing. I had a look at what kind of motorcycle it is actually on the internet. And the more I read about it, the more I saw it on the internet, the more it actually grew onto me, even without seeing it in flesh. And it also reminded me, of course, amongst other things, the war era in Germany for some reason, I don't know why, probably because of the movies. It reminded me of the R5 for obvious reasons, because this bike is actually based on the R5. So it's the rebirth of the R5, which I think is one of the most beautiful bikes ever built by man. So coming to the point, right now I'm at BMW Motorrad Lutyens here in Delhi, and it's still, the COVID is still going on, the pandemic is not over, it's far from over. But as they say, the wheel must keep rolling and the earth must keep turning. BMW has presented us the R18, which unfortunately could not be launched with much fanfare physically, but they did a virtual online launch. And here it is in front of me in India. And I have to tell you that I got up early in the morning and it was not a waste, because this bike is actually unlike any other cruiser out there. Trust me when I say this, it's not just because it's a new bike and I get excited. I mean, I've been doing this in 17 years, so I know what I'm talking about. I've seen a lot of motorcycles, I've ridden a lot of motorcycles. To start with, the looks of this motorcycle is completely different than what you would expect from any other cruiser in the market. But make no mistake, this is a cruiser. This is supposed to be a true blue cruiser. And of course, this is black right now. Well, a bad joke, but it reminds me of the Rune for a lot of reasons. Because Rune was also big, it was unconventional. This is also unconventional because of primarily of the engine, which you see over here. And continuing with the looks, this has a lot of vintage, sprinkled all over. Of course, like I said, it is based on 1935 R5. So this marries the nostalgia of the yesteryears with modern technology. And I really like the looks, so there's no doubt about that. But what BMW has done with this motorcycle is that I feel that it is a display case for its engine. That's all to it. I mean, this is basically a huge engine which is a masterpiece. It's like jewelry, and this whole motorcycle which is built around it, it's supposed to be the display case. And that is how I see it, because this engine is so overpowering in terms of visuals. That visually, I mean, it's the centerpiece, it's a masterpiece. It is something which you can park in your bedroom, and you can say that it's like jewelry. How many motorcycles can you actually park in your bedroom and say like that? Drawing room. Perhaps the Ninja H2, which again, it's a masterpiece. There's no other bike like the Ninja H2. And I feel in the cruiser segment, this motorcycle is akin to the Ninja H2, because this is also a display piece. Even when you're sitting besides it, it exudes a lot of character. It tells a lot of things about you, your taste. I mean, if I just sit here, don't say anything, people would assume that, I have very good taste in clothes, I have good taste in wine, and all these kind of things. Beer, of course, in German. And I'm telling you, if we had Arnold Schwarzenegger right now, and if we showed him this, he would say any day yes to this rather than the Fat Boy, if he wanted to do a remake of the Terminator 2. That is what I believe, because Arnold is one of my idols. And although, I don't look like him, but I feel that, a lot of things, he's similar to me, or I'm similar to him rather. Well, cutting all that bullshit, now talking about this bike again. So coming to the engine, which, like I said, is the center, the masterpiece, the centerpiece of this beautiful bike. It's an 1800cc boxer engine, which is the biggest BMW has built so far. And they knew that they have to build a big engine, because without that, they cannot capture the cruiser market, which they intend to in America. This is why this bike was built, to capture, to eat into the Harley market in America. And hence, if you can do that over there, you can probably do that anywhere else in the world. And they had to make it big. And this, in fact, is the second time that BMW has tried to make a cruiser. The first time it was, I think, the BMW 1200 GC or something like that. And it wasn't really successful, although it looked like a cruiser, it wasn't big enough. 1200cc is not big enough for a cruiser. And they also had a smaller version, the 850. So they stopped that in, I think, 2004. And now here again, finally, I think they have nailed it with this. The biggest problem, which a lot of people might say, that this motorcycle will present, like at least in the market or in mind of people, is that the foot forward controls are not there. In a typical cruiser, you place your feet like this and you're riding into the highway. But here it's a the controls are exactly in the center of a motorcycle. And almost like, it's like in the Diavel, probably. But of course, it's not possible to have foot forward controls in this because of the engine. And even if the engine had allowed, I have an inkling that BMW still would have not chosen the foot forward control setup. There are many reasons why America, the Harleys, they have foot forward controls, because you're relaxing on the highways, you're going like this, all these kind of things are there in America. But in Europe and other countries, you have a lot of turns, twists. Not that Harleys cannot take turns, but it's much better when you are riding like this, I feel. And having said that, probably you won't be able to lean too much on this motorcycle, or probably you would be, but definitely there will be sparks. The first modification, which I assume, which spirited riders might have, is basically get the guards for the cylinders, the two cylinders here, and that would enable them to actually, like knee scrapers, I mean, this is all in my mind, because for me, a BMW has always been either the S1000RR or the GS series, the adventure motorcycles. But this actually changes the game. I've never desired a cruiser like this outside probably the Indian Chief Vintage, which I owned for 3-4 years until recently. So that looked beautiful. This looks incredibly beautiful, despite being clinically good, I'm assuming, in terms of engineering, because it's a German machine after all. This marries engineering, looks, heritage, and a lot of things. Talking about heritage, I'm all over the place right now, because very frankly, I just read up on this motorcycle like a couple of hours ago. Like I said, I'm not into cruisers. You have this thing written on it, built in Berlin. So that's written because it doesn't say made in Germany, it says built in Berlin, because number one, Berlin is a very cosmopolitan, very culturally rich city. It's got a lot of history, like the R5, which precedes this. And also that this bike has been built in BMW's Berlin Spandau factory. So they are really proud about that. Now coming back to this bike, talking about performance, 1800cc, 1802cc to be precise. It's around 150 Nm of torque, if I'm not wrong. I corrected in the video. And it also has your latest electronics, which obviously were not present in the R5. And that's the advantage of having technology. It has partially integrated ABS, which means that if you press the front brake, the rear brake will also come into play. And but it will not happen if you press the rear brake, the front will not automatically engage. So that's there. That's a very good thing. It's sort of the CBS, a combined ABS system, which probably was in the Honda Blackbird, which was my first big bike, by the way. And then also you have traction control. You have 3 riding modes, very interestingly named. One of them is named Rock, and one of them is named Roll, and of course the third one is Rain. So they want you to rock and roll, and in rain perhaps, something like that. So this one is the first edition, as they call it. The first edition means that it is the most closely reminiscent of the R5. It's got white pinstripes, it's got chrome elements everywhere, and the first edition is more expensive than your standard edition. If I'm not wrong, the first edition costs in US around 15 or 16 lakhs in US. So here I'm expecting this to be around 19 or 20 and around 23 on road, and that is expensive. But I think it has to be expensive to maintain that exclusivity, and because it's German, it's BMW, so all these kind of things, and of course the price point also makes a huge psychological impact on the person who's buying it. And so that was the rider aids technology. It's also got ride by wire. It's got a die clutch, but it's slipper assist. So There are a lot of things which are going on for this motorcycle, and one of the best parts about this is that it looks very industrial, essentially because of the engine which is here, which is the main element. The spokes, the front is a 19-inch, rear is 16, I think, and also the fact that it's shaft driven, and the shaft is exposed, and it really adds to the whole industrial kind of a Terminator kind of a look that we have going on here. Truthfully speaking, I would definitely go for this motorcycle. I mean, I cannot afford it right now, but if I wanted to have a cruiser, either it would be an Indian Chief Vintage or this would be a R18 over here. This also has got a massive wheelbase of 1731 mm, which is like huge, which is almost like Honda Rune, and I believe that it must be one of the longest wheelbases of any production motorcycle out there. And it's also not light. I mean, cruisers are not supposed to be light. This is 345 kgs, yes, and but it can go to 180 kmph. That is what BMW claims, and I think that is more than enough for a bike like this, which weighs 345 kgs. This has got a 16 liters tank. I'm not sure about the mileage, but I think it should be good for around 220 kilometers on a single tank. Now, one of the best parts about this motorcycle is that it is built with the same thing in mind which the BMW R90 was built, that is customizability, that you can do a lot of things to customize this motorcycle. You can have ape handlebars and you can do a lot of things. I mean, those kind of things are actually shown in the BMW, on the BMW website, and when they sell this motorcycle, that you can actually customize this a lot to your liking. So that's something which is really going on for this motorcycle. Overall, I don't know how it will ride on the road, but when you sit on it, the weight kind of disappears. It is a little heavy, side heavy for obvious reasons, but once you center it, I think it's a beauty. And knowing that it's a BMW, it's German, I'm sure that it also handles really well on the road. And I can't wait to ride it. So that's it, and see you guys. And I'm sorry if I missed anything, because I just read about this motorcycle this couple of hours ago. You take care and ride safe.